What's good, my boy? It's a beautiful morning today, and I was gonna make a video in the little studio setup, but I figured I couldn't get this concept down. Well, I have like 4 or 5 concepts that I wanted to try to combine into one main thing, and I just couldn't get it in that video. So I had this idea to maintain the like unedited raw style that I do, but since it's the weekend, as I go throughout my daily tasks, I'm about to fucking get some squats and deads in, to just kind of keep the topics in my mind and just see if I can work out them into one whole video. I don't know how it's gonna work. We'll see. The boy's a little scuffed while I was doing some demo work on an outdoor patio. I was up on this fucking 12-foot ladder trying to pull this piece of hardy off, and I fucking got it, and that silicone or caulk, whatever the fuck they put in there, was not giving. I ripped that shit, and it folds in half, and I drop one side, and it hits me right in my fucking eye and right in my lip. Busts my lip, cuts my fucking eye, but whatever, I digress. Some of the skill, or some of the topics I wanted to really touch on in this video, it's going to be probably like an hour long, because it's going to be all these different things that I'm going to come back to. The first one is I wanted to touch on skill stacking from the guy Scott Adams. Don't really know much about the dude other than he's like a comic book illustrator, rich as fuck, made Dilbert. But his concept of skill stacking, I've done a good amount of research on, and I really like the concept. The second is a little bit of an ulterior point of view from a couple creators. One would be Naval Ravikant, and the other one would be Alex Hormozi. And the concept of the niche is you. And what that pretty much means, to give a brief explanation, is like you have all these interests, all these hobbies, or all these skills, and there's so many people out there telling you to brand it, to put it out online, niche down, the niche is you, blah, 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 and so forth. Or pick one niche and niche down. But truly, the niche is you, and all of your interests together make your brand. Think of like someone like Joe Rogan, with all of his interests that he talks about, makes him Joe Rogan. There's like a numerous amount of examples out there, but I feel like those two things correlate enough where it'd be a pretty interesting thing. The second one is a Joe Rogan topic that I saw on a podcast about him talking about obsession and skills, and how he has to be careful not getting too big into the weeds of certain skills, because they'll interfere with the ones he's already like made certain that he loves and that he's going to pursue. And he has this thing in his brain where if he really likes something new, he'll jump all into it. And I feel like that relates a lot to me. That's how I kind of do a lot of things. So that was one. That's another one, talking about that and how to manage it. Gaining skills through deep work, a concept by Cal Newport. Sorry, my nose is fucking running because it's cold as shit out here. And gaining skills through deep work, the practice really explained by Cal Newport, and tinkering, this lost art of tinkering. I think I'm going to open up this video with this topic. I'm going to try to do timestamps, because I don't really know when I'll get back to talking about the topics, or even if I'll finish this fucking video, but we'll see. And the last, not least, pretty important, is optimization overload. So, to start, we'll just talk a little bit about tinkering. Now, whenever I hear the word tinkering, I think of this fucking video game I used to play called World of Warcraft. Whenever I was like 14 or 15, I was seriously addicted to this game. But there was this race in the game of gnomes. Like in this game, you could pick a certain race, which were like different. There was like elves, there was like blah, blah, blah. It was real nerd shit. And there was this race called gnomes, and they were real little people. And they would, anytime you'd see them in the game, they'd be tinkering with something or building something. Or there was a profession in the game called engineering, and you got a boost right off the bat as like a fucking race trait that you were better at engineering, because it was like the whole premise. Now, why I think of that, I don't really fucking know. But I just figured mentioning that. Tinkering is a lost art in the era of just trying to optimize everything and wanting to start off with an advantage. In the past, people would literally, there wasn't a fucking abundance of information online that you could just look up. You had to, if you were interested in something, you had to play with it, aka tinker with it, and figure that shit out. I think of someone like Jimi Hendrix. I like playing guitar and making music and shit. And I like to think that, yes, there were times where Jimi Hendrix, when he was coming up learning guitar, would play a little bar, and some jazz musician would be like, hey, Jimmy, look at this little lick you can play, and blah, 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 teach him something. But for the most part, I believe it was hours and hours in his hotel rooms or his home, just noodling around with his guitar, figuring that shit out, tinkering with it. Whenever we think about the great engineers of the time, even someone like Elon Musk, we think of them in their factories tinkering with their creations and figuring out new ways, playing with the rockets, thinking about different things. Just that is the pure essence of creativity, and that's the pure essence of truly doing things that you find interesting. For me, I have 4 main interests that I talk a lot about on my channel, which first and foremost is like building, whether it's out of metal and me trying to tinker around and figure out how to weld, or it's building things out of wood. I build homes and remodels and all that shit, and figuring out how I'm going to get this angle cut for this pitch of the roof and to wrap it around this and blah, 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 and figuring out these angles and figuring out how to get all my posts square for my railing on my deck. And you know what, let's try this paneling inside of it and do this rail system with little slats of wood. It's interesting to me. And I love it because I have the freedom to just tinker with it and figure it out. I'm not reading manuals. Whenever I think as a kid, it was fun whenever you'd play with Legos or Lincoln Logs or some shit like that, and you went off of the examples that were given. But whenever you just had a box full of miscellaneous Legos and you were just trying to figure out how to build that shit, it was exponentially more fun and just engaging. It's like, even if I didn't build anything useful, or not useful, even if I didn't build anything cool or that even looked like anything, hours would just go by and I wouldn't even realize it because I'd be so in the flow state of just doing these things. And we have so many people nowadays where instead of starting something fresh and just tinkering with it and trying to figure it out and building a relationship on their own with it, they start off with other people's parameters of like, how do I start this? Say you want to start a fucking garden. What's the best soil and what's the best mixture for this and how do I do this and the pH and blah, 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 and nutrients. And instead of just being like, all right, I'm going to plant a garden here. What are some vegetables and some fruits I like? And just figuring it out. As the seasons go, you learn how to deal with the temperature. And I get it to some extent. You don't want to fail. It really comes through the fear of like failing. But if you lose that fear, you'll never lose it entirely. But if you can minimize that fear enough where you have freedom to just kind of freely go about things and learn and discover and through your curiosity, I feel like your motivation to learn and gain these skills it's just expanded. But I mean, I still, like, whenever it comes to working out, my first 2 years working out, I'd watch video after video of working out and blah, 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 instead of just simplifying it. And same thing with diet. Instead of just simplifying it, picking one methodology and experimenting and tweaking it on my own to see what works best for me, which is what I've come to and what I seem to find myself coming to in numerous fascinations. Where, say it's oil painting, I'll watch a bunch of fucking videos and do this and try this person's method and blah, 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 and these paints and this perfect set of circumstances. And at the end, I'll jump from extreme to extreme, and then I'll finally balance out with my own little sets of things. Recently, I've been trying to teach myself how to weld on an old Lincoln Buzz box, like a little tombstone Lincoln welder. And it was just fun as fuck trying to figure this shit out on my own where I just did like super ignorant shit that I didn't even think about, but I had fun doing it. Like, for instance, I bought this welding hood off of Amazon. I don't know anything about welding. I watched like one video on welding and it was really vague and I didn't really watch much more. So I put this helmet straight on and start trying to like practice some welds. I have like this little piece, I have this big piece of flat iron and I'm trying to weld things onto it and trying to run beads and figure this shit out. And my buddy comes over after I'd been trying to do it for about a week. And he's a hell of a welder. He builds boathouses and he knows his shit. And he puts my hood on and he's like, this is how stupid and naive I was. Not stupid, this is how naive I was. But the naivety is what kept motivating me to come back and try to get better. But he puts this hood on and he's like, you can't see out of it. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, you're supposed to be able to see the bubble of the melting welding rod, and that's what you use as your guide to go. Long story short, I had a piece of fucking plastic in the lens of the welding hood that I didn't even realize you were supposed to take out. He takes it out and I can fucking before, this is how crazy it was, I'm literally just like, have my hood up and I get my welding rod right in position of where I want to go and think about the path I got to take to weld on something. I put my hood down and I'm blind. I'm blind welding. I thought that's how you're supposed to do it. And he comes over and teaches me this one simple thing that changes it. And now that I got one little advantage, I want to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and get better at it. But I feel like if I would have started out with that advantage and not had that little period of tinkering and naivety, I would have probably got bored of it. And to me, that's just fucking interesting as shit to think about. And I've had this example, maybe not as intensely doing something wrong as this, maybe not like, I don't think, like, that's pretty fucking bad, not realizing that you're supposed to be able to see your weld. But I've done shit like that with other things, like whenever it comes to music. Whenever I'm trying to think of a good example, I didn't really know much about mixing and mastering and all this shit. So I would just turn on the record and try to record certain songs and shit. And I'd be like, man, this is so cool. This is my fully fleshed out idea. And then I'm just figuring it out as I go. And I'm introduced to the whole world of mixing and mastering, which I love. I find it really cool and interesting, all the little parts and intricacies. But it included all of these rules and things that you have to do and absolutes. And it kind of turned me off to music for a little while. Now I'm getting back into it, but it was so overwhelming with all of these optimizations and things that you had to do, where it kind of took me out of the funk of it for a little bit. So that's a good kind of a contradiction to the two, of how I feel like blindful naivety into something, starting out just tinkering, can benefit you more than starting it out with like optimization and all these different tasks and homeworks and things you have to do to blah, blah, blah. So that's one thing. And to tie tinkering in with deep work, Cal Newport has this book. He has a numerous amount of books that are really invaluable. They're all great ideas. Truly, you don't have to read the whole book. You could learn about them in like 30 minutes. But to make a long story short about the deep work, he believes in digital minimalism, which is reducing the distractions through social media and videos and online things and blah, 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 and having these periods of 1 to 4 hours of solid, just undistracted focus into one thing. And the amount of an advantage this will set you apart from people who are just kind of going about these things distracted, not really thinking about it. He calls it pseudo productivity. Think about like you have one area of productivity where it's just busy, like the hustle culture, stay doing something, stay busy, don't ever have periods off, versus the periods that you are busy, fucking absolutely optimizing what you're doing during these periods to make it where there's no distractions, there's no other things. And you don't have to be super militant, because it can be a little bit off-putting But in layman's terms, it could be as simple as me in the welding machine with my phone on the other side of the shop, just practicing running a bead for an hour straight, stick rod after rod after rod, just going back and forth. That is a definition of deep work. I'm not doing anything else besides this. I can't really focus. That's another part of it, is not being able to focus on anything else. The only thing you can truly focus on during that period is that, because it's that it's that big of a skill. Like if I'm playing guitar, an example of deep work versus not deep work, another one would be if I'm playing guitar, right? And let's say I have a fucking video going and I'm just noodling around. Half of my attention is on that guitar and half of that is on that video. Now, another example, which would be considered deep work, is if I have an hour-long backing track, blues backing track, and I'm just like feeling the music for a whole hour undistracted, just fucking soloing and blah, 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 and just bending and feeling that shit. That would be considered deep work. So it's undistracted, full attention into a skill for chunks of time. And if you implement that with the purity of tinkering, I truly believe that is how to blow up your level in any skill. You can take it in anything. It could be some nerd shit on a computer or blah, 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 blah. Or it could be some art. It could be a trade. It could be an entrepreneurial thing on it doesn't really fucking matter. It's just a process that I believe is key to growth in this age of just fucking distractions and numerous different things. So that was the first little bit of this. I think next I'm gonna go ahead and get some workouts done. I have one of my buddies coming over with an excavator, and we got to dig a hole and start clearing off some things over here. So I'm gonna get that done, and then the next I might be in the shop running some welds, and I'll touch back on. I didn't really touch too much on the skill stack and the Joe Rogan obsession part, but we'll see. We're on the first walk of the day through the trails on my property. Walking is like one of the most beneficial things that I do. Just walking through fucking nature, wherever, and just thinking about shit, reflecting about stuff. And I started chewing on this topic for this video in a hole, trying to figure out what would I call it, title-wise and shit. And I think pretty much the premise of this video, it might be a little cringy or gay, is how to be the modern Renaissance man. Pardon the fucking man bun. I was doing squats and I'm taking a break right now. But whenever I think of a Renaissance man, my definition personally is someone like Da Vinci. He's the perfect epitome of what we use as the example of a Renaissance man. Multifaceted, followed his own curiosities and interests. He wasn't special because he was a fucking Einstein level IQ. He was special because of just following his curiosity led him to do wonderful things because it was pure. All of his intentions were fucking pure, and he literally was just living life, doing what he liked doing without anybody else's parameters and bullshit. A modern, goddamn fucking tree fell down in the middle of my goddamn walking trails. That's crazy. A pure modern example of what I would consider a Renaissance man would be Joe Rogan, which is why I use him as an example a lot. Not only is the dude the most fucking successful person really I could think of with the biggest audience right now, his fucking whole philosophy of just doing things he loves and is interested in, his archery, his pool, his conspiracies, his podcasting, his martial arts, all of these are such like random weird little hobbies that he's combined into such a brand that whenever you think about him, and I use the word brand sparingly because this isn't me trying to be like some fucking marketing guru being like, this is what you got to do to make millions. No, it's just a way of living. But when you think of someone that's like, oh, that's a Joe Rogan motherfucker. Oh, he's one of them Joe Rogan type people, or a bro that watches the Joe Rogan podcast, like any of these like funny fucking memes you'll joke about people with. they literally are just like encapsulated of, oh, that's someone who likes fucking like thinking about psychedelics and conspiracies and nature and working out and all these things and discipline, but also chill. It's like a variety of things, and that's what I'm trying to achieve with these videos, is trying to inspire people to do a variety of things, not be buckled down to one thing, and just do what you love doing in general. So to target on the main topic that while I was on this walk that I was thinking about on the list of topics that I made to talk about, was recently while watching one of his podcasts, I saw him explain how he goes about these different interests and how it all stems from him having this like hyper obsession with whatever he's in. And it was with Gary Clark Jr., this musician, who was trying to get Joe to learn how to play guitar, right? And he's like teaching him an E chord, which is like a really simple chord on the guitar. And Joe Rogan is just like, oh, I could fucking see how learning this shit is addicting. I could see how you could love this. I gotta be careful. And he starts explaining how he has this thing where if he allows himself to get into some random thing, not only will it hinder his other pursuits that he's already full-time invested into, his obsessive personality just makes him fucking want to learn so much about this. And I experienced this on my own, which is, if you're trying to do this fucking modern Renaissance man, whatever fuck it's called, if you're trying to do that, you must be very conscious and mindful of a certain thing. That's why I always illustrate in my videos my 4 main things that I'm really interested in. And I pinpoint just 4, and I don't start listing all these other ones, because at the same time that I really like powerlifting, I really like fucking film, I really like all these other art form, comedy, I like all these things, but I've come to the consensus that I can't do everything. It's like, no shit, you can't do everything, but your brain will leap onto these things. Like Joe Rogan talks about, his brain leaps hyper obsessive into certain things. I've done it so many times. Whenever I started learning about like esoteric fucking Kabbalion hermeticism and shit like that, I was just fucking all in on this shit. I didn't want to do nothing else but like learn and read about this shit. It was so fascinating. And then my brain will jump to like religion and be all in and want to like fucking watch all of Jordan Peter's lectures on the Bible and read all these things and do all these things. And it's like, for me to find a balance, I have to kind of just pick these few. And this is the main essence of this part of the video, is that you must pick, like, you can do more than one thing. That's 100% true. You don't have to fucking niche down. You don't have to do this or do that. You can do what you want, and it can be more than one. It could even be 4, but it can't be a fucking 100. You have to choose. And the ones, like for Joe Rogan as an example, what I've noticed from him is he really is into fitness and diet and all this shit, but he practices something that I've also adopted, which is this method of taking the guesswork out of certain things. So let's say you have your interests, your main pursuits that you're going to spend your like deep work time on, and you're going to really pursue these things. The rest of those other pursuits, you must take the guesswork out of them. You can still work out, you can still optimize your diet, you can still do all these things, but you need to make it to where your time is, your mind and the time you spend is little on these things. So for me, I always have loved powerlifting, the idea of it, but it was never, as well as some bodybuilding shit, but it was never going to be my main thing. So I experimented with different things, and what I found works best for me is to just go onto a powerlifting program and mark the things off of the sheet. Because in the past, I've had a notebook where I got to track all my things and all this and all that. I just fucking, all I do is I just open up the program on my phone for the day and run it, and then I'm done with it. I don't have to spend any more thought or reflection or anything. I just do what the fucking program tells me. For my diet, I know all about calories in and calories out and nutrition and what I can do to optimize me. And I've experimented enough where I know I'll just weigh out my food. I'll pre-cook certain things. I'll add in certain things that'll all add up to the right nutrients and calories and proteins and blah, blah, blah. Simplify it where it's not bullshit. And then just kind of do that Alex Hormozy approach of like backfill with what you want. Now, I don't eat a bunch of sweets and shit, but in essence, you can do the Alex Hormozy approach, even though I've kind of conditioned my brain to believe a lot of like the carnivore stuff. But that's just one part of it. And if you combine those two of being mindful about your obsessions and making sure you don't stray too often and you stay consistent with a select group of them to practice your deep work into, as well as taking the guesswork out of the little ones that you don't care too much about, you can combine yourself where you're doing a bunch of different things and you're optimizing, or not optimizing, but you're kind of growing them all in unison at levels that you truly care about. And to give a little thing on me, I was diagnosed with ADHD whenever I was like 8 years old, and the doctors just found it cool. They were just like, all right, let's just put this little motherfucker on meth pills. Just let him go wild. They put me on these fucking meth pills from like 8 years old to like 15 or 16 years old. Taking this, like, I think it once was Aptensio, and then it was, I never did the Adderall. It was like Ritalin and shit. But my ADHD, whenever I was off of those, was hyper obsessive about certain things. Like if I was playing the video game, I gave that analogy about the video game. That used to be one of my things I like doing, was I was fucking in. I remember one time playing that World of Warcraft game where I played it for like fucking 16 hours straight, killing the same mob in the game over and over to get enough coins so I could buy a fucking golden serpent mount. Or it would give me a golden serpent mount for the amount of reputation from killing these fucking mobs in the game. I did that for fucking 16 hours all night. And it was just like, so there's a lot of us out there, younger people, who have had these addictions to video games and certain things where you're working, you're still fucking focused on it, but you, like, unlike a creative endeavor or actually doing something in the real world or making videos, whenever you're done with these things, you're left with nothing. You're left with just a bunch of time that you time skipped. But whenever you pursue real world skills and fun hobbies that can be equally as fun, they can be equally as fucking fun as these things, and you've already proven to yourself, a lot of us, even like the people that are just like we shit on and we call them names and they don't really seem to have any goals, they're still able to focus and play these games that they love for like fucking hours and hours and hours. You have that essential focus to be able to do that on one thing. All you have to do is transfer that to the newer thing or things. For me, it's multiple. And you just implement these little methodologies that I've talked about. I think next, I'm going to finish up this workout. I got some Romanian deadlifts. And then I'm going to go down to the shop and run a few beads. And then we might talk about something else. I don't really want this video to take up all my day. This is another thing, to give a real world example about minimizing, or not minimizing, about taking the guesswork out of things. I tried 2 of these longer form videos of me just doing my own shit. I tried these and I couldn't figure it out. I just like, I was looking at this Sam Sulek guy, and I really liked his style of like unedited, just fucking doing what he did. And whenever I tried and experimented with that, it was kind of like, I felt like I had to be an entertainer, like with a vlog camera, like I was fucking 2016 Logan Paul, just like, what's up boys, this is what I'm doing. And I didn't like that. I didn't like the interference of like me wanting to do these things, these hobbies that I pursue, and also implementing the excess of like filming and trying to put on a personality while I'm doing them. But I thought, and I reflected, I still want to do a video. I still want to film these things that I love doing. I still want to have some essence of this. How can I combine this? And what I thought up, which we'll just see, I got to experiment and show you boys real world experimentation and not being afraid to fail. But I'm gonna experiment with this form of video of like a solo podcast, unedited. I'm not gonna edit out any of my yapping or anything like that in these videos, but then just like combined it through me turning the camera on while I'm doing certain things, and while I'm like no noise doing my hobbies, I'll just turn the camera on and continue one of the points from the video, and it should condense into like an hour's worth of content in the day, which I can easily do. It won't interfere it won't interfere with any of my time blocking and things of my other pursuits. And it'll be enough where I feel like I can really expand on these topics and think about them fully. So we'll just see how this works. I think next I'm gonna be in the shop and I'm gonna be talking about like time blocking, managing your time, different methodologies, as well as I'll talk more on the skill stack and shit like that. Man, this shit is turning out to be a fucking beautiful ass day. And here I am on some fucking Truman Show shit talking to my cell phone. But it's something I find interesting and I'm very curious about. So I'm trying it. Taking my own advice. Now them weren't no fucking Western Welding Academy type welds right there. That shit kind of looked like a dirt dauber's nest. But I've been trying, and I thought, I talk shit about Casey Neistat's little gay era of like everybody trying to fucking edit like him. So there was a little bit of creativity from my part to title this section of the video. And I got my handy dandy little whiteboard to explain the topics a little bit better. So I've talked about multiple skills and all these different things in this video. And I thought I would explain some of the ways I go about managing my time, that way I get all of these things done and still have time to do other pursuits and have little bits of free time and little bursts of like chill or not. So there's three main ways that I see other people as well as I like to manage time. The first one, number one, is time blocking. Now, my handwriting is kind of shit, and I write my G's like S's, but time blocking is one of the ones I've been most interested in, been experimenting with the most recently. I saw it from this Cal Newport guy, and time blocking is basically, let's say you have a piece of paper, and it's got lines on it, right? All time blocking is you go like, say I wake up at 5 a.m. So from 5 a.m. to 6, each line is an hour. and in between is 30 minutes or whatever. So let's just say I woke up this morning and I want to work out. So from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., you make a little block and you put work out. Real simple. And you do that throughout the whole day with all your different things, from hypothetical, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. 12 p.m. whatever the fuck, 8 to 12, I want to do some deep work in the music studio. I'd make a little block from 8 to 12 and write music. And that's time blocked, and you try your hardest to manage that. Very simple, very rudimentary definition. Kyle Newport and numerous other people have like hour-long methodology videos about them. The second, which I have the most experience with, is list making. Now, list making is what I pretty much practiced for the last 6 to 8 months. And I used these Yellow Legal notepads, and I just kind of date it, and I write out in kind of chronological order without the time. But like, I have read and coffee. That's the first thing I do every morning. Make a cup of coffee and I read a book for an hour. Then I do a workout right after that. That day was legs. Then I'll upload a video. I upload a video. I don't really follow it strictly. I might skip a day, I might not. I might have a whole fucking month full of consistency, but I just have it in there as an idea. And if it's an idea task for the day, normally I'll put like a little question mark by it. If it's an important one, I'll put a little like fucking star next to it. Then I got work, because for 8 hours of the fucking day, I go and I build houses. Then I got shower and shave. I try to do that every day after work. Then after that, I have music practice. I have, well, this is whenever I was clipping up my videos. I have clips, paint or draw, either one, just a little hobby I wanted to include. Then I have a section where I do just like random shit. So it'll be like meditate, make some sort of a journal entry or whatever. And then more recently, they've kind of changed a little bit. I got like, this one is from Wednesday, March 6th, 2024, this month. Read Candito, which I'm on the Candito powerlifting program right now, just running that bitch to try it. I got work, sand, stand, and support. I built a deadlift platform and a stand for my synthesizers out of wood. So I wanted to stand that day after work, find my mics. I had the mics I had in the beginning of the video. I fucking lost them whenever I went out of town, and I wanted to find them. Had a star next to that bitch. See, find mics with a little star next to it. YouTube suggestion blocker. I wanted to try that out. I heard some people talking about it. Draw pastel. I draw a little fucking 30-minute image with oil pastels, and music practice. So that's the list making method. Explained how I do it. It's that simple. You just jot down the things you want to accomplish for the day. Now, things I've noticed with list making in general. It's good. You get things that you want to get done if you're disciplined enough to do them, but it's not as organized. I've been trying this time blocking for the last couple weeks, and once I separate myself from my job as a contractor, I'm really going to be probably hammering in on the time blocking since I can create my own schedule. I feel like list making is good for those of us where it's hard to set aside certain dates of time because your schedule is kind of all over the place. I don't know if I'm going to be working an extra hour on work or not. I don't know if I'll get caught up after work helping somebody do something, so on and so forth. So list making, whenever you have a big time commitment to something else, works. But whenever you can, if you have the freedom like your own boss or an entrepreneur, I feel like time blocking is one of the best ways to go because it truly keeps you on task and going and going. Now, the third one I wanted to throw in here is going with the flow. This is a little philosophy, like a Zen, Alan Watts, Buddhist philosophy. And the way you can interpret it is literally where it's like, don't let nothing bother you, fuck discipline, just go with the flow. Or you can kind of adopt it as like an extra add-on to the first two. The way I implement the methodology of going with the flow, I made a video a while back called Go with the Discipline Flow. And basically, structure your life, your things you do, disciplined, time blocked, blah, 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 list, whatever. And the certain things that come in and disrupt that, good or bad, go with the flow. Don't let it fucking agitate you. Don't feel like it's the end of the fucking world because you didn't get your protein allotment of the day. You might have missed a set in the workout. You might have all these extra outliers. Just go with the flow and try your best to stay on it. Now, some people, extremists, would be like, that's pussy shit, blah, blah, blah. But fuck them. To me, it's a good methodology. I think of the monks. A monk, you think of a fucking Miyagi motherfucker. He knows karate, he's disciplined, he's this, but he's also very chill and namaste and zen. He fucking trims bonsai garden and he waxes on and waxes off and he's chill. He knows how to chill. He knows how to go with the flow of life and chill like it's a river. But he also knows the value and importance of discipline and getting things done and being structured with your day. So those are the three methodologies I do to keep track of the time whenever it comes to these different skills. If you're trying to be the modern Renaissance man or whatever, it really just helps you stay engaged with what you're doing and stay structured. Because what I've noticed the most is if I try to take a real lackluster approach to this shit and try to like freely go about it, I have not that many things going on. I mean, to normal people who just kind of chill all day, I do. But to like a fucking Elon Musk, my day is inconsequential to what, I don't even know if that's a fucking word. It's not even comparable to what he does. Running all those companies with all these people coming at you and shit, I can chill. Nobody fucks with me at all. I can just chill and do what I want. But it still gets overwhelming if I try to freestyle the day. If I want to work in this fucking giant wood shop and build shit and constantly gain skills and learn every day. If I want to do something in terms of music production, creating music, learning an instrument, finding a new sound, long periods of practice on drums or guitar or keyboard, that's a fucking good thing that I have, a lot that I have to think about. If I want to, I've minimized the painting and the art, the like drawing art that I do to a hobby level, which the most I'll spend on it is 2, maybe 3, but 2 hours a day. That's maximum. Then the fourth is these videos. Well, these videos and learning, okay? I combined my consumption and my creation whenever it comes to the internet and the online shit. So I got these 3 main things that I'm trying to balance. And the building seems like I can just make it a very straightforward thing, but it's welding, it's woodworking, it's coming up with things to build, it's selling this shit online and locally and figuring out all the business things with that. So there's that whole side of it. With the music, that's a whole other complicated thing in its own with all these different things. I try to find ways to simplify each one of them. But with the fourth one, which is the videos and learning, for me, I combine 2. With learning, I'll add things like books I read, as well as podcasts I consume, as well as short form content that I might consume, which I try to minimize that as much as possible with these videos. This video is a longer than usual video that I make because I'm experimenting with a new formula. I think solo podcast in the style of like a Sam Sulek, where it's just pick up your phone and record what you're thinking about. I don't want it to be Jake Paul vlog. What's good, boys? Look at what I'm doing. Blah, blah, blah. I want it to be like what I'm used to. But I also want to incorporate showing you guys some of the things I like doing to inspire other people. And then I have a 5th thing on top of all that, where I'm trying to clean up this property and make it into something. So there's all these different areas that I'm trying to focus on in these three philosophies of time blocking, list making, and going with the flow. I've been trying to experiment with the best ways to utilize my time, because if you're truly serious about trying to be the best you, now, I'll make a hesitation before I say be great or be the best you or any of these buzzwords that a lot of self-improvement people use, because we can't take ourselves too fucking seriously in this shit. I've tried it. I've tried to be the angsty little fucking dude that is just like going and going and going and going and going. And I feel kind of cringe whenever I do that and I snap out of it. I like to have a nice balance where I don't take myself too seriously. I'm disciplined in getting my shit done. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, it's just a weird little fine balance to walk where there's extremes on each end, and instead of teetering back and forth, I want to find a repeatable path. I mentioned that Sam Sulek because what he has seems to be repeatable. He does what he loves, videos and working out and whatever else. He does that. He doesn't really seem to be like, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. He kind of just does it chill when he feels, and not when he feels. He still does it like almost daily. But that is kind of the discipline as well as going with the flow. And you mix those together, and I feel like that's the best formula for trying to do this Renaissance man type shit. Anyway, my boys, I'm going to try to get something cleaned up in this shop today. And then I'm going to go back and probably get me some lunch and then work on some music shit. And then I'll tune in back with you boys later. I got a couple more topics I want to touch on, and then we'll call it good for the day. I was going to add in a bunch of extra sections to this video and kind of make it layered, but I don't fucking feel like it. I wanted to just summarize this and conclude all of these different points into one singular why. Fuck is the point of this? What's the point of these ramblings, these topics, talking about these people, meaning all this thing? And it is why. Purpose. The why we do things. So many people feel like they lack purpose. They lack substance in their life. Shit's just meaningless. Day in, day out. They lack passion. I heard Joe Rogan talking about passion in general. He loves watching these different people and having these different conversations with completely different people. And it's not because he has an interest in fucking coding an AI. It's not because he has an interest in sanding down a table and fine furniture. It's not because he has an interest in building a fucking spaceship. It's because he's interested in these people's singular passions. People that are so passionate that they have created their own life meaning. I don't believe in a singular meaning to life. I've been religious, and I do believe in a lot of religious things. And it's such a complicated topic that it would be a whole other video in its own to talk about. But what I do know is I do know how to create a wanting to wake up every single day. That's what I've created for myself. Something where I, instead of feeling like I need to skip time and that I can't that I'm bored and I can't figure out new ways to satisfy myself and have pleasure, I literally feel like I don't have enough time to accomplish the things I want, because I'm interested in so many different things and I just love life. I'm grateful for so many things. And another element is like love through family and friends and all of this shit. That is a very big necessity that you need. I am very lucky to have a loving family and a good set of friends that I can call upon and talk to whenever I feel, and I can talk to them in a true form where it's not like a weird relationship where I gotta sugarcoat things. I'm eternally grateful for that type of things. Those are some of the things I am blessed with. So having a good community, paramount to feeling fulfilled. And then the other half of it is finding things that you're passionate about. I've worked enough jobs so far that I understand it is a recipe for a fucking boring, meaningless life, showing up to a job that you do not care about. This is why I have such a strong disdain for certain entrepreneurs who push the rhetoric of fuck passion. Goddamn stray dog just ran through my property. What the fuck? They push this rhetoric of fuck a passion, make a dollar. And I feel like that is the absolute opposite of what you should pursue. To pursue money alone just so you can be comfortable financially and then pursue what you want just seems asinine, because none of what we have is promised. So for you to not pursue what you truly are passionate about doing, and if you have a problem finding what you're passionate, follow your fucking curiosities, whatever little thing you're truly interested in, pursue it. It could be anything. And just go all in. Even if it's like I am, multiple interests. It is the why. It's the fucking Nietzsche. It's the he who has any why can bear any how. It's the fucking Viktor Frankl, man's search for meaning. It is creating your own meaning through things you love doing. So, I mean, I didn't intend for this video to get super fucking deep philosophical about meaning of life and shit, but this is the only way that makes sense for me to truly love each day and not feel like I don't have enough time on this planet, and truly feel like time is of the essence to get things done. Now, that's a whole other video on its own of like working to accomplish things and get things done. For me, it's mainly just, like I said, doing the things I really enjoy. I really enjoy sitting down with my grandpa or my neighbors and just smoking a cigar, talking about things, bullshitting. I truly enjoy the art I make. I enjoy the things, the skills that I've built. And that's just why I make these videos, I really think, is to share that message. There's too much right now of this fucking hustle culture, online entrepreneurship, or like, of course, that's a path in its own right. That is something you can pursue and be interested about and love. And I believe the creators who are the most successful in that are true, they're not scammers, they're truly interested. I believe Alex Hormozy is truly interested in it. I believe there's a lot of these different people. But I also believe there's a lot of artists out there where they're getting dampened by this installation of fucking make videos, make content, Facebook ads, this, and this, when in reality, that's just one thing. You can still do all these things you love doing purely in the real world. You don't have to fucking add these extra parameters and shit on it. I just choose to do it because this is another one of my curiosities. I find it fascinating how people can just like create these little communities online of like-minded people. But yeah, just follow your fucking passion. Use some of the tips that I've instilled in this video and some of the philosophies to how to manage and work those, figure them out, gain skills and relevance in them. And I'm just going to keep hammering away with some of these videos as much as I feel inspired to. So, Chase Paper, enjoy art and nature. Have a good one, my boy.